My name is Madison Hayes. I'm 28 years old, and after spending 8 long years serving my nation abroad, I was finally heading home for the holidays. 3 Christmases missed. 3 seasons of empty chairs and glitchy FaceTime calls that froze at the worst moments. I had counted the days, packed my luggage with carefully chosen presents, and even treated myself to a new dress just for Christmas dinner. Then my phone lit up. One message from my dad. "Christmas is better without you. Best if you don't come." My hands shook as I typed out a single reply. Got it. Before I go any further, tell me where you're tuning in from. Hit the like button and subscribe if you want to hear how 10 missed calls and a family attorney turned everything upside down. Growing up in Oak Ridge, Pennsylvania wasn't remarkable, but it was home. Our 2-story colonial on Maple Street, with its leaning mailbox and my mom's obsessively kept flower beds, was where I learned what family meant, in all its warmth and chaos. The last Christmas I truly remember as joyful before joining the military still replays in my mind like a cherished film clip. I was 20, back from college for winter break, and the house was filled with the scent of cinnamon and pine. My mom, Kathleen, had gone all out that year with decorations. Twinkling lights bordered every window, and the tree stretched nearly to the ceiling, the angel on top looking like she was whispering secrets into the crown molding. "Madison, come help with these cookies," Mom called from the kitchen, flour dusting her cheeks like soft snow. My younger sister, Amber, then 18, was already there, carefully icing sugar cookies with the precision of a surgeon. Everything Amber did was flawless. Her academics, her looks, her effortless way of staying in our parents' good graces. "Don't burn them again," she teased, bumping me playfully with her elbow. "That happened once," I laughed, tying on an apron. And Dad still ate them. Right on cue, my father, Richard Hayes, stepped into the kitchen holding another bin of ornaments from the attic. Even at 53, he still had the build of the college football star he once was. Broad-shouldered and imposing, his salt and pepper hair only adding to his commanding presence. "The receipts need organizing before year-end," he said instead of greeting me, his eyes locking onto mine. "You should spend some time in the office tomorrow, Madison. Start learning the business." Hayes Hardware had been in the family for 3 generations. My grandfather started it from scratch. My dad expanded it to 3 branches, and I was expected to eventually take it over. It was assumed, accepted, unavoidable. Except by me. "It's Christmas break, Richard," my mom cut in, her voice laced with the gentle reprimand she'd perfected over 25 years of marriage. Let her relax. Just then, my brother Tyler strolled in, saving me from having to answer. At 24, he was the peacemaker, the one who could ease any tension with a well-placed joke or distraction. "Who's helping me hang the porch lights?" Dad's attempt last year looked like drunken spiders through a rave. "I'll help," I offered quickly, flashing him a grateful look. Outside in the crisp December air, Tyler handed me a strand of lights. "You know you can't keep dodging the talk," he said quietly. "Dad's already planning to move you into the assistant manager role next summer." "I don't want it, Ty." The words came out sharper than I meant. I never did. "Then you need to be honest with him." I was 3 days after Christmas. I sat my parents down and told them I'd been speaking to a military recruiter, that I wanted to serve, explore the world, and use the GI Bill for grad school. The silence that followed was suffocating. Then my father stood, his chair scraping against the wood floor. "No daughter of mine is joining the military," he said, his voice low and tight. That's the end of it, but it wasn't. 2 weeks later, I signed the enlistment papers. The morning I shipped out for basic training, my mom cried. Amber looked confused. Tyler hugged me so tightly I could barely breathe. My father never came to say goodbye. "He'll come around," my mom said. "He just needs some time." But time didn't soften things. It hardened them into bitterness. During my first deployment, letters from home grew short and infrequent. My mom called when she could, always saying Dad was busy at the store or working late. Amber graduated college with honors and jumped straight into the family business, stepping seamlessly into the position I had declined. Tyler kept me grounded, sending emails with family news and the occasional photo from a celebration I'd missed. One Christmas, in my 3rd year away, I noticed something in a picture. The framed photo of me in uniform was gone from the mantel. When I asked Tyler about it, he waited 3 days to respond. Dad's dealing with some stuff. Don't take it personally, but how could I not? With every year, the emotional gap widened. Not just the physical miles, but the silence, too. My mom's calls became short and slightly formal. Amber's achievements were relayed like news about a distant cousin. My dad spoke to me only if he happened to be near the phone when Mom called, his only input being questions like, "When are you going to stop this military nonsense?" 8 years went by like this. 8 years of becoming someone my family no longer recognized. 8 years of brothers and sisters in uniform who felt more like kin than the people I shared blood with. 8 years missing birthdays, weddings, even funerals. 8 years trying to close a widening gap with no bridge in sight. And yet, every December, I felt the ache. The magnetic pull of home. Christmas in Oak Ridge, where snow actually stuck to the sidewalks, and carolers still rang doorbells. Christmas with my mom's sugar cookies, Tyler's awful eggnog, and even Amber's flawlessly wrapped presents. Christmas. With the family I still, despite everything, wished I belonged to. So when my CO finally approved my holiday leave for the first time in 3 years, going home felt both terrifying and unavoidable. I was coming back as a stranger, a shadow of the daughter and sister they once knew, hoping I could somehow reclaim my place. Military life changes you in ways civilians can't always grasp. You learn to sleep anywhere, eat anything, and function on minimal rest. You gain a constant edge of alertness. And you build bonds under fire that make most civilian friendships feel shallow. Rachel Wilson was one of those bonds. The kind of friend who knew every strength, fear, and habit I had better than anyone back home. We met during my second deployment, sharing a tent with 4 other women in blazing desert heat. "Your dad still freezing you out?" Rachel asked one evening as we sat outside the barracks, watching the sun set the mountains ablaze in purples and golds. She was from Montana, blunt and bold, but I'd come to value her no-nonsense honesty. "He's moved on to the one-word reply stage," I said, scrolling through our brief text thread. I'd asked how the store was. His answer? "Fine." 1 word, no punctuation. Rachel shook her head. "Family's weird, Hayes. They know exactly where to hit you." "Poetic," I joked, but she wasn't wrong. "My old man was the same when I joined," she went on. "Didn't say a word to me for 2 years. Now he wears a proud Army dad hat to the diner and brags about his daughter being a hero." What changed? Her expression shifted. I almost died. Convoy hit an IED. When he got the call, saying I was critical, all the stuff he held against me just vanished. At the time, I didn't know how prophetic those words would be. 3 months later, what should have been a routine patrol turned into a nightmare. Our vehicle hit a roadside bomb. The explosion is still a haze, more fragments of feeling than a clear sequence of events, the ringing in my ears, the grit of dust and blood, the crushing weight of my gear. I remember, with eerie clarity, thinking, my father will learn about this from someone I barely know. I made it out with a concussion, a few minor shrapnel injuries, and a completely different outlook. Rachel wasn't as fortunate. She lost part of her lower left leg. While she healed, I stayed close, spending every spare moment at the military hospital, watching her endure the agony, the ghost pains, the relentless grind of recovery. Her face, steeled with grit during every rehab session. "You know what keeps running through my head?" she asked one sweaty afternoon, forehead damp as she practiced walking with her prosthesis. "All the dumb fights, all the bitterness I held onto, it's meaningless. Totally meaningless." Her words lodged deep in my mind. When my CO informed me I could separate from service in 6 months if I didn't re-up, the choice was suddenly obvious in a way it had never been. It was time. Time to go back. Time to see if I could mend what was shattered. I began with small steps, sending longer emails, switching from brief texts to actual phone calls. My mom replied with careful warmth, as if scared I might shut down again if she showed too much joy. "We've missed you terribly, Madison," she said in one call, her voice faltering. "The house feels so empty without you." Amber stayed courteous but detached, asking superficial things about my life without probing too deep. Still, it beat the icy silence of previous years. "The assistant manager at Brunswick is leaving," she mentioned once. "Dad's been pulling double shifts trying to cover it." I heard the unspoken suggestion but avoided it. "Sounds like he's under a lot of pressure. Is he holding up okay?" "You know how Dad is," she replied, which didn't really answer anything. Tyler was the most excited, snapping right back into our old banter like no time had passed. "You're really going to be home for Christmas?" he asked after I shared my plan. "Mom's going to freak out, in a good way." "What about Dad?" I couldn't help but ask. A brief pause. "He'll come around, just let it breathe when you first arrive, all right? It's been a rough year, work, and health stuff." "Health stuff?" I asked. "Is he all right?" "Just hypertension." "Nothing scary," Tyler said. "But you know him. Won't slow down, won't hand anything off. You being home might even help whether he admits it or not." My dad himself remained a mystery. My messages got brief replies and he never initiated. When I mentioned being home for the holidays, he answered, "Only your mother will be happy." Not a warm welcome, but not a flat-out no either. I chose to take it as silent consent. The next several weeks were busy. I picked gifts with care. A pale blue scarf for Mom, her favorite color. A limited edition set of Tyler's go-to novels. A sleek leather portfolio for Amber, monogrammed. For Dad, after a lot of thought, I settled on a vintage compass I'd found in a German antique shop. On the back, "To find your way home." Maybe too poetic, maybe too obvious. But it felt right. A gesture of peace. When my discharge became official and I returned to civilian life, it hit me hard. I wasn't Lawton Hayes anymore. Just Madison. All the routine and certainty that had filled 8 years vanished, replaced with something vast and unknown. Rachel helped me pack my quarters, sorting through years of gear and keepsakes. "You're doing the right thing," she said, folding my jeans like they were uniforms. "Family's complicated. Still family, though." "What if I'm too late?" I asked, giving voice to the fear that had crept up as the date neared. "What if there's no going back?" Rachel stopped folding and stared straight at me. "Then at least you'll know you tried, and that matters. Believe me, I almost didn't get another chance." The day before I flew out, I called home to finalize everything. Mom picked up, her voice bright. "We're counting down the hours, sweetheart. I'm making all your favorites. That green bean casserole you used to love. Tyler wants my pecan pie, of course." "That sounds amazing, Mom. Is Dad around? Can I talk to him?" A pause. "He's working, sweetie. End-of-year stock check. But he knows you'll be here tomorrow. Your room's all ready." When I hung up, I was full of cautious hope. Tomorrow I'd walk back into the house that had begun to feel more like a dream than a real place. Tomorrow I'd stand face to face with my father, for the first time in forever, and we'd find out if there was anything worth salvaging. I rechecked my bags, making sure everything was secure. The compass suddenly felt like it weighed a ton. Would he understand what I meant with it, or would he, as always, miss the point? There was no time for doubts. My bags were packed, my status final, and my path locked in. I was heading home for Christmas, ready or not. "You've got this," Rachel said at the airport security checkpoint. Even with her prosthetic, she insisted on driving me at the crack of dawn. "You've seen real combat." "Family dinner's nothing compared to that." I laughed, but nerves twisted in my gut. "Yeah, but at least I knew who was on my side over there." "Text when you land," she said, hugging me tight. "And if it gets rough, remember, you always have a New Year's invite with me and my insane family in Montana." "I might actually take you up on that," I replied, half serious. The flight from Denver to Philly was both too long and far too short. I spent the hours swinging between anxiety and pointless distraction. When we touched down, I exhaled and turned my phone on. 3 texts popped up. "Tyler, Let me know when you land. Can come get you. Mom, safe flight, sweetheart. So happy you're coming, Amber. Mom's been cleaning for 3 straight days. Brace yourself. Nothing from Dad. No surprise. I texted Tyler back, told him I'd landed and would love a ride. While waiting on my suitcase, I sent a group text. Just arrived in Philly. Can't wait to see everyone tonight. Mom and Tyler. Fired back quickly. Heart emojis, exclamation marks. Amber sent a thumbs up. Dad, as usual, said nothing. I told myself it was fine. He'd never been a texter. Bags in hand, I found Tyler at curbside, leaning on his truck. Older, definitely, but still familiar. Look what the army coughed up, he joked, scooping me into a tight hug that lifted me off the ground. You got shorter? You got uglier, I shot back, smiling despite myself. The ride was full of his stories, his job as a high school teacher, goofy student antics, and a conspicuous lack of dad talk. I let him steer the conversation. Outside the window, everything was unchanged. The mall we'd haunted as teens, the park I'd scraped my knees in, the familiar turn onto Maple Street. Mom's been baking since this morning, Tyler said as we pulled in. And a warning, the house looks like Christmas exploded. Because I'm coming home? I asked, trying not to sound too hopeful. He paused. That and, well, Amber's boyfriend might pop the question on Christmas. Mom doesn't know I know. I overheard them. That's great, I said, genuinely happy. For her, even if I felt a little left out. What's he like? Nathan? He's solid. Works in finance, treats her right. Dad likes him, which is rare, you know. I nodded and grabbed my bag as we stopped. My phone buzzed, expecting "We saw you pull in." From Mom, I smiled and looked. Instead, it was Dad. After silence, he finally answered my arrival text. The message read, "Christmas is better without you. Don't come." I stared, reading it over and over, praying I'd misread. It didn't change. The words were plain, final. Maddie? Tyler had the tailgate open and was watching me. I couldn't speak. Just handed him my phone. I watched his face change. Confusion, then shock, then fury. This has to be wrong, he said. But even he didn't believe it. Maybe someone else sent it. Maybe it's a bad joke. Is it? I asked softly, taking the phone back. After 8 years? Is it really that surprising? The pain hit instantly like a gut punch. All my careful prep. The gifts. The rehearsed conversations. Useless. The compass now felt like some cruel joke. I'll talk to him, Tyler began. I shook my head. No, he made it crystal clear. My pride stepped in, shielding me from total collapse. I'm not going to barge into a place I'm not welcome. But Mom and Amber can see me somewhere else. I spoke with calm I didn't feel. I typed a single word in reply. Understood. I turned to Tyler, who looked torn between staying with me and running inside. To fix it all. I'm getting a hotel. Don't tell them yet. Just say I'll be a few days late. Maddie, please. I need time, Ty. My training kicked in. Contain the feelings. Manage the plan. I'll call tomorrow. I promise. But right now, I can't be there. He protested, offered ideas, compromises, even confrontation. But eventually, he helped me book a decent room, then drove me in silence. This isn't how it should be, he muttered as we arrived. None of this is right. Welcome home, huh? I tried to joke, but it landed flat. I'll call you tomorrow. Alone in that plain hotel room, the enormity finally crashed down. I had come thousands of miles, given up the life I'd built. And this was what I got. I unpacked enough to sleep, left the gifts untouched. The compass felt like it was laughing at me. To find your way home, as if home was still real. I ordered room service I couldn't taste, watched muted holiday films. My phone blinked, Tyler checking in, Mom calling, even Amber wondering why I'd vanished. I only answered Tyler. I told him I was okay. I asked him to give me space. The others would have to wait. I kept quiet, unsure what to express or even where to begin. Did they know what my father had texted? Were they part of the rejection or simply unaware? Not knowing left me frozen. As Christmas Eve neared, I stayed suspended, extending my hotel booking, venturing out only when absolutely necessary. I avoided any part of town where I might cross paths with relatives or people I'd once known, instead sticking to bland shopping plazas and predictable chain diners where I could vanish inside the seasonal crowd. Every night I checked my phone again, hoping maybe for a follow-up from my father. A retraction, an explanation, even a repeat of the rejection. But there was only silence, which somehow cut deeper than cruelty. I felt like an outsider in my own hometown, more isolated than I'd ever been in foreign lands filled with unfamiliar faces. At least there, I had purpose. Here, I was just the daughter barred from Christmas. 3 days into my chosen isolation, I realized I couldn't take another hour inside that hotel room. The walls were closing in, and the joyful lobby decor felt like emotional torture. I needed movement, open air, anything to quiet the endless mental echo of his words. I wrapped up for the cold and walked toward Riverside Park, figuring it would be mostly deserted on a weekday morning. The icy path along the river awakened old memories, sunny lunches, bike rides, track warm-ups. This place was carved into me, whether I liked it or not. Lost in thought, I didn't notice the woman walking toward me until she spoke. Madison? Madison Hayes, is that you? I glanced up. Jessica Parker, my closest friend from high school, stared at me, surprised and smiling. Her hair was shorter and she was steering a stroller with a bundled toddler inside. Jess, I said, truly glad to see her despite everything. It's been ages. 8 years, maybe? She guessed, giving me a sideways hug around the stroller. What are you doing back? I thought you were still deployed. I left the military, civilian now. That's incredible. Just in time for Christmas with the family. She scanned around. They're here too? Her casual question hit like a slap. No, I'm just getting some fresh air. Jessica's face showed concern. Wait, you're not with them? I thought... She trailed off, hesitating. Thought what? I pressed. She adjusted her baby's blanket. It's just, I ran into your dad at the hardware store yesterday. When I asked if he was excited about you visiting, he said you'd changed your mind, that you weren't coming after all because you were busy. Her words shouldn't have stunned me, but somehow they still did. He said I chose not to come? Jessica nodded, visibly realizing this was awkward. He seemed kind of let down, said something about how the military shifts people's priorities. I let out a dry, incredulous laugh. That's not the truth. She gave me a gentle look. Want to talk about it? Ben's napping and I could use a break from toddler chatter. We ended up at a quiet coffee shop nearby, Jessica's son dozing in his stroller. Over hot drinks, I told her everything, the strained family ties, the travel, and the brutal message. Wow, she whispered once I was done. I don't even know what to say. That doesn't sound like the Mr. Hayes I knew. People change, I replied, though it sounded unconvincing, even to me. Sure, she said carefully, but this seems really extreme. Could he be dealing with something, health stuff? I shrugged. Tyler mentioned some blood pressure thing but made it sound minor. She looked thoughtful. Come to think of it, I remember my mom saying something odd about him after a Chamber of Commerce event. Something about him seeming different. Forgetful, I think. He's only 61, I said. Not exactly old enough for memory issues. True, she agreed. Then paused. Also, something you should probably know if you're planning to lay low during your stay. What's that? Your sister Amber's getting engaged Christmas Day. Big surprise thing at dinner. Nathan told my husband. They're on the same rec league team. I'd suspected it from Tyler, but now it was confirmed. Amber's milestone, her big moment in a relationship I barely knew. And Dad didn't want me around to see it. So that's the reason, I said softly. He thinks I'll overshadow Amber somehow. Jessica frowned. Just by showing up? That's a bit much, even for an overprotective parent. You don't understand, I told her. He's barely treated me like I exist for years. This is just the final step. We said goodbye with a vague promise to reconnect before I left town, whenever that would be. Back in my hotel room, I replayed the conversation. My father wasn't just brushing me aside. He was spinning his own story, telling people I'd abandoned them. Was it jealousy? Resentment over my choices? Or just a preference for the version of events where he wasn't the villain? The next morning brought another unexpected run-in. I was browsing a bookstore on the outskirts of town, hoping to kill time, when I accidentally bumped into my aunt. "Madison," she exclaimed, dropping her paperback. "What are you doing here? Kathleen told me you weren't arriving till January." Another lie. Realizing my dad's deception went beyond a small fib to a friend was another blow. "Plans changed," I said, trying to sound casual. Aunt Patricia gave me a long look. "Is everything all right? You don't look okay." We'd never been especially close, but her genuine concern hit something raw. To my dismay, my eyes filled with tears. "I don't think I'm welcome at the house," I admitted. She looked baffled. "What?" "Your mother's been thrilled about your visit. She even fixed up your old room." In the quiet corner of the shop, I showed her the text. Her reaction was immediate. "I don't understand this," she said, reading it again. "Richard can be old school, but this is cruel." 8 years of distance doesn't say otherwise, I replied. Patricia's expression turned somber. "He's never accepted your military path, but this isn't just disapproval. This is intentional." She insisted on treating me to lunch, and over sandwiches, she caught me up on family events. My mom apparently refreshed my bedroom every season in hopes I'd visit. Tyler had been seeing another teacher for nearly a year. Amber's engagement, yes, it was supposed to be a surprise, though Patricia suspected Amber was already in the know. "She's always been one step ahead," she chuckled. "Do you think that's why he doesn't want me there?" I asked. "To keep things focused on Amber?" She considered that. "It wouldn't shock me. He's always doted on her. But that message, that's more than favoritism. It's intentionally cruel." We parted ways with her promising not to reveal. Our encounter to my mom, though, she clearly didn't approve of the secrecy. Family issues should be handled openly. She advised, "Take it from someone who spent years not talking to her sister over a miscommunication." I returned to my hotel room burdened with more confusion than clarity. The days dragged forward, Christmas Eve looming with a sense of anxiety rather than excitement. I still hadn't replied to my mother's increasingly anxious messages or Amber's puzzled texts. Only Tyler was aware of where I was and why, and he seemed torn between honoring my boundaries and urging me to face the situation. On the morning of the 5th day since my father's message, everything shifted. I woke up to the relentless buzzing of my phone. Not just an occasional ping or call I'd been avoiding, but an uninterrupted flood of alerts. 10 missed calls in just an hour. 3 from my mother, 2 from Amber, 4 from Tyler, and most jarringly, 1 from someone saved as Hayes, family attorney. Before I could absorb all this, my phone rang again. Tyler, there was clearly something wrong. I picked up on the 3rd ring, my heart racing. "Tyler, what's happening?" His voice came fast and strained. "Dad's in the ICU, cardiac arrest." "It's serious, Maddie." The world seemed to lurch slightly. Despite everything, the news hit me like a physical strike. When did this happen? Last night he'd stayed late at the store doing end-of-day counts. The night watchman found him, Tyler's voice broke. "He's in stable condition now, but it was a close call. The doctors say he's not in the clear yet." I dropped onto the edge of the hotel bed heavily. "I'm so sorry, Ty. That's horrible. There's more." He exhaled. "Mom was checking his phone to reach out to some work contacts, and she saw the text he'd sent you. We've all seen it." A chill settled over my skin. "Oh, Maddie, he had no reason to send that. Absolutely none. Mom is shattered, not just by Dad's condition, but because of what he did. We're all in shock. I assumed you thought I wasn't wanted and that you all agreed with him. God, no." Tyler's voice sounded appalled. "How could you think that? We've been hoping you'd come back for years." "But Dad has been." Tyler paused. "He hasn't been himself lately. Doctors believe he may have had smaller events before this major one. Memory lapses. Behavior shifts. Mom's been worried, but you know how much he resists doctors. The revelation added an extra layer to an already tangled situation. So you're saying that message may have been due to health decline. I don't know. Maybe that's part of it? Tyler sounded worn out, but it still doesn't excuse it. Not in any way. Mom's been calling you constantly. She knows you're here. I had to tell her after Dad's collapse. She's desperate for you to come to the hospital. I closed. My eyes stuck between the urge to rush to my family in a crisis and the ache of my father's rejection. I'm not sure I can see him just yet. Ty, you don't have to. If you're not ready, he said gently. But Mom and Amber, they're hurting Maddie. We all are. His sincerity cracked my defenses. No matter what had passed between my father and me, the rest of them were in pain. And even after 8 years apart, they were still my people. I'll come, I said at last. Give me 30 minutes. The hospital waiting area felt heavy with fatigue and tension. My mom sat upright in a stiff chair, her usual pristine appearance unraveling dark shadows beneath her eyes. Amber moved back and forth near the window, checking her phone periodically. They both looked up as I stepped in, faces shifting from exhaustion to stunned recognition. Madison. My mother breathed, standing shakily. Oh, baby. And then she wrapped me in her arms, her familiar scent mixing with the sterile hospital aroma as she clung to me like I might vanish. Behind her, Amber stood uncertainly, her eyes puffy from crying. I'm sorry, my mother said, pulling back to study me. So sorry about your dad's message. I had no clue. Did any of you even ask? It's fine, Mom, I said without thinking, though it felt false. It's not fine, Amber cut in, stepping closer. It was heartless and unacceptable. The fire in her tone shocked me. My polished, put-together sister looked genuinely outraged. Not with me, but for me. It caught me so off guard I didn't know what to say. Tyler arrived carrying coffee for everyone. Relief washed over his face when he saw me. The doctors are in with Dad now. They've said the next day is make or break. We settled into the stiff waiting room chairs. Conversation, awkward and slow at first. 8 years apart, built a wall not easily dismantled, especially. During such a tense moment, we assumed you decided against visiting. My mom admitted, nervously shredding a tissue since you didn't show and weren't answering your phone. Richard said you messaged about trouble with your discharge paperwork. Another lie. That wasn't true. We know that now, Amber said gently. We read what he sent and how you replied. I stared at the linoleum, embarrassed somehow, like I'd done something wrong instead of being pushed away. I didn't know how to respond to any of you after that. Avoiding it just seemed easier. This isn't new, is it? My mom's question was quiet but firm. He's been interfering for a while. I looked at her, confused. What are you suggesting? She exchanged glances with Amber and Tyler. After your second deployment, your letters mostly stopped. Richard claimed you were probably overwhelmed with duties, so you couldn't write consistently. But I mailed letters, weekly. I argued and emailed whenever possible. We received maybe a letter a month, Amber said, and most of those were short, detached. A sinking feeling began in my gut. That's impossible. I wrote long letters. I asked about your lives at home. I told stories about my friends, my experiences, everything I could. Mom looked grave. Dad always brought the mail. He was always the first one home. Are you saying he hid my letters? The idea felt so invasive and manipulative, I couldn't even grasp it. I don't suspect, my mom said firmly. I'm certain. When I went through his phone last night, I searched his email too. There was a folder with your name in it. Dozens of emails you sent us, none of which we ever saw. The betrayal struck hard. For all those years, I'd believed my family was slowly detaching, replying briefly and coolly to my efforts at connection, while all along my father had been deliberately cutting the lines. There's more, Amber added, this time more cautiously. Last year, while I helped Dad organize his office, I came across a pile of sealed letters from you in his desk drawer. I asked him why he hadn't shared them. He claimed they repeated things you already told us in calls, so he didn't see the need. I sensed something wasn't right. My mom continued, voice thick with emotion. The Madison I raised wouldn't have stopped reaching out to us, but Richard always had answers. The military was changing you. You were preoccupied. You'd built a new life that didn't include us, and you believed him. My voice wavered with pain. I didn't want to. She confessed, eyes welling up. But he was so convincing. And when you phoned, you sounded distant, guarded. Because all of you replied so stiffly. I thought you didn't want me anymore. Tyler reached out and squeezed my hand. It was a perfect storm of miscommunication and Dad pulling the strings. But why, I asked. The question that had haunted me finally voiced. Why go so far to drive me away? My mom's reply was interrupted by the doctor walking over his face, neutral as he approached Mrs. Hayes. Your husband is conscious and asking to see you. She stood smoothing her wrinkled outfit with shaking fingers. Can my kids join too? The doctor hesitated. He's very weak. Maybe just one after you. My mother turned to me, eyes resolute. Madison should be first. A wave of fear swept through me. Mom, I'm not sure that's smart. He made it clear he didn't want me around. That's precisely why you should go, she pressed. This needs to end. I looked to Tyler and Amber, but their faces echoed her sentiment. After 8 years of lies and a health emergency, it was time to confront it. Okay, I agreed, throat dry, but don't expect any miracles. Following the doctor down the hospital corridor, I tried bracing myself for the moment. Would he double down on pushing me away? Would he even know who I was? The monitor beeps and disinfectant. Smell reminded me of the military hospital where I'd visited Rachel during her healing. Outside his room, I paused, drawing in a breath. Whatever happened next would either mend 8 years of damage or prove some wounds never close. Either way, I had. To go through with it, I opened the door. The man lying in the hospital bed hardly resembled the Dad I remembered. Richard Hayes had always loomed large, his energy dominating any space he walked into. Now he looked small, gray-skinned, connected to machines and multiple tubes. His eyes were shut and I thought he might be asleep. Kathleen. His voice rasped, eyes fluttering open slightly. It's Madison? Dad? I moved closer, unsure whether to sit or stand beside the bed. His face shifted from confusion to recognition, then to something unreadable. Remorse, maybe, or fear. Madison? He repeated as if tasting my name. You came? Mom said I should. After what? He closed his eyes slowly. I didn't expect you to come. I stayed quiet. The speeches I'd prepared in my mind vanished in light of his weakness. Sit, he said at last, motioning faintly to the chair next to him. If you're going to yell, do it sitting. It makes me feel less helpless. Despite it all, a slight smile tugged at my lips. I'm not going. To yell, you just had a heart attack, and that might push you over the edge. But the joke didn't land. His condition made lightness feel misplaced. I sat, staying cautious. Up close, I could see the deepened wrinkles, the whitening hair. 8 years had taken a toll on both of us. They found your text, I said softly. The one you sent me. They know I didn't choose not to come. His face showed shame. I wasn't in my right mind. And were you confused when you hid my letters or deleted my emails or lied to them about what I said? His eyes widened. They told you? Yeah, Dad, they told me. 8 years of twisting my ties to Mom, Tyler, and Amber. 8 years of making me think they didn't want me when it was you all along. The fury I'd vowed to control seeped out. Regardless, I need to understand why. He turned to the window, where pale winter sunlight hit the sterile floor. I was scared, he confessed, the words sounding difficult. Of what, losing you? He looked back at me, and to my astonishment, his eyes were watery. When you enlisted, I was furious. You rejected everything I offered: the business, the steady path, a secure life. I could accept that. But then you were deployed, and anger turned to terror. That constant gnawing fear. I remembered Mom mentioning his brother who died in a distant war. Your brother Eric was killed in Vietnam at 22. He nodded slightly, but it wasn't only that my father served in World War II came. A changed man, remote, harsh, at times even explosive. He left us when I was just 14, walked out the door one morning, and vanished for good. This was family history I'd never known. Confessions that reframed my father's choices, not justified, but explained. So when your first letter came, describing a combat ambush, his voice trembled. I couldn't take it. I couldn't bring that terror to your mother. Couldn't see her unravel like mine once did. So I trimmed the letter, removed the terrifying parts, told myself it was for their good. And then you kept writing. I added, slowly piecing together the warped reasoning that had governed his decisions. Cutting turned into blocking, then into full deception. He gave a solemn nod, remorse etched in his features. I know it was wrong, but at each stage it felt like the only option. Each lie built the next. And then you withdrew, which was exactly the result I feared, yet somehow caused. Because I thought my own family didn't care to hear from me. The irony hit like a punch. Every short reply, every unanswered message deepened my dread that I'd been erased from your lives. That was never what I intended, he murmured. I thought I was shielding you, shielding us, all the while tearing us apart. Brilliant move, Dad. He winced at the bite in my voice but didn't defend himself. The doctors believe I've had minor heart episodes for months now, ones that affected memory, clarity. That doesn't excuse that message I sent. When Amber said her boyfriend might propose on Christmas, something broke in me. All I could picture was you returning to pain. Not physical harm, emotional. But my mind couldn't separate the two. So, your answer was to lash out, I said, voice thick. Hurt me first before I could hurt you. It sounds insane when you put it that way. It was insane, Dad. And cruel. Silence wrapped around us like fog. Only the soft beep of machines and distant intercom chatter filled the space. I don't expect forgiveness, he said at last. What I did isn't something sorry can fix. No, it's not, I agreed. 8 years of lies doesn't vanish with an apology. He dipped his head, accepting that. For what it's worth, though I know it may not be much right now, I am sorry, Madison, more than I can say. Another silence followed, thick with years of distortions and betrayals. Part of me wanted to leave, to say some betrayals are final. But another part, the one that recalled bike lessons, his proud cheers at my graduation, his hug before I shipped off, that part held back. The family lawyer called, I said, steering the conversation. Why? He looked puzzled. Martin reached out. I didn't ask him to. Well, he did. Left a message about something urgent. Realization crossed his face. Ah, must be the will. I updated it after you enlisted, took your name off. That hit hard, though. I couldn't say I was shocked. Another price for defying expectations. A mistake, he corrected quietly. One I intend to undo. I saw Martin last week. Been reflecting a lot, before any of this. He gestured toward the tubes and monitors. About the father I've been. The man, really. A knock at the door stopped him. A nurse stepped in, followed by my mother, scanning us as if measuring tension. Everything all right here? She asked gently. I rose, needing air after the heaviness of it all. Just talking. Dad can catch you up. Madison, my father called as I reached the threshold. I paused, hand on the handle. Will you come back later? There's more I want to say. I stood frozen, torn between preserving my heart and the possibility of repair. I'll think about it. In the hallway, I leaned against the wall, breathless from all I'd just heard. What he'd done was unforgivable. Fear, disguised as control. And yet, seeing him fragile, hearing that regret, made it harder to hang on to the righteous fury that had kept me going. Tyler approached, holding out a cup of horrible hospital coffee without a word. How much did you know? I asked after a sip. About Dad's interference. I suspected something, he admitted. On visits during your leave, the Madison I saw didn't match the cold sister he described in your letters. But I didn't realize the full scope. They think his health affected his judgment, I offered. Tyler nodded. The doctors mentioned possible TIAs, mini strokes. Can change personality, judgment, but it doesn't explain 8 years of this. No, I agreed. That was Dad, trying to control what he feared, unable to grasp what he couldn't manipulate. Our talk was cut short by the arrival of a dignified older man in a designer suit. Martin Collins, the family lawyer for as long as I could remember. His face brightened. Madison, thank goodness. Been trying to get in touch. He shook my hand firmly. I'm so sorry to hear about your father. How's he doing? Stable, Tyler said. Doctors are cautiously optimistic. Martin nodded. That's good. I hate to bring up legal matters now, but your father insisted last week on immediate updates to his will and other papers. Updates? I repeated. He said he planned to see you, but not that he had. Martin shook his head. No. He came last Tuesday, stayed nearly 2 hours. He was insistent on adding you back as a beneficiary, reinstating your place in the business. I stared, stunned. You're saying he already changed the will? Before the heart attack? Yes. It was a priority for him. Said he'd made a grave error and had to correct it fast. Martin studied me. He didn't explain much, but he clearly felt remorse. Tyler touched my shoulder. See? He was trying to fix things before it all happened. The new info cast that cruel message in a strange light. Why would he reach out so viciously days after taking legal steps to reconcile? Doctors said his thinking may have been clouded by strokes, I murmured. Could that explain the contradiction? Martin looked contemplative. I'm no doctor, but yes. He seemed confused during our meeting, lost his train of thought, got upset. I thought it was emotional, but now, it didn't excuse the years of lies, but it hinted at why things had recently spiraled. The man who reinstated me in his will wasn't the man who'd texted, "Don't come. I should get back to your mom," Martin said, glancing at his watch. But I wanted you to know, your father meant to make amends, at least legally. As he left, Tyler and I exchanged a look full of equal parts uncertainty, hope, and aching sorrow. What's going through your head? He asked. I'm thinking. I paused, sifting through the mess. I'm thinking nothing is as clear as it was 5 days ago, or even 5 hours ago. Welcome to family, Tyler said with a crooked smile. Never simple, but sometimes worth the mess. As we joined Amber in the waiting area, I felt something loosen inside. Maybe, just maybe, he was right. Christmas Eve in a hospital wasn't anyone's dream. Harsh lighting and sterile smells replaced the cozy glow of our tree and Mom's cinnamon apple scent. Yet in the tiny private room the nurses gave us, something unexpected unfolded. I brought these from home, Mom said, revealing a bag of wrapped gifts. It didn't feel right to skip it entirely. She'd also packed her signature sugar. Cookies, cracked but still lovingly detailed. Tyler poured eggnog from a thermos, barely spiked. Still a hospital, he noted. And Amber had found a little fake tree from the gift shop, now decked with paperclip angels and tongue depressor ornaments made by a pediatric nurse. Strange. But maybe the most heartfelt Christmas we'd ever had. Dad's stable enough to leave ICU tomorrow, Amber said after a quick call. Still some concern about neurological issues, but heart-wise, he's improving. That's such a relief, Mom said, her tired eyes finally softening. She turned to me gently. Madison, I know this isn't the return we imagined. Especially now, I shook my head, still unpacking everything I'd learned. I don't even know how to process it, Mom. 8 years thinking I was being pushed out, only to learn Dad engineered it. We're all struggling to accept it, Tyler said. Knowing the distance was orchestrated, not real. Amber, who had been unusually quiet, finally spoke. I always felt something was off. Her voice was calm but certain. When I'd call you, and it felt off, forced. It didn't match the Madison. I knew, but Dad was convincing. He'd say things like, she's moved on, or The military's her life now. Why didn't you say something? I asked, unable to hide the hurt. I tried, but Dad always had explanations, and Mom got so upset any time it came up. She gave our mother an apologetic glance. Then I found those letters in his drawer. I knew something was off. But it had been so long by then. I didn't know how to fix it. None of us did, my mother said, reaching for my hand. Fear and confusion kept us apart. But no more. Her grip tightened. Whatever happens with your father, whatever you choose, know this. You will always have a place here. Always. Her words brought a rush of tears to my eyes. I missed you,